Hello, my name's Chad Fisher. I'm an instructional technology coach in Winchester, Virginia, and this is my Google Tips and Tricks presentation. Google Drive is a great tool to use in education, but one of the biggest complaints is how unorganized it can be. So let's talk about how you can organize it. So here you can see under the shared section or shared with me section of Drive, I know it can get a little overwhelming when students and staff members or even the district will share folders with you and files with you. So my tip here is like this is my shared drive right here. So I have all these different files. Now, if it's something I want to actually have in my drive so that way I can find it and I can organize it, you can actually right click on the file and you can say add to my drive. And when I click that, it automatically is placed in my drive, as you can see, added to my drive, and I can organize it and find the correct folder where I want to put that. When you're in the file itself, and I will just click on, let's go with this. So when I'm in the file itself, if I want to add it to my drive, you'll see the little icon up here. It looks like a little drive symbol with a plus sign. All you do is you click that, and once more it'll say added to my drive, and you can click on organize and move it to where you want it to be moved. And also, if you don't need your files anymore in the shared with me section, you can feel free to delete those files or folders. You'll just lose access to them, but the owner of the files themselves won't be deleted for them. So, when you go to shared with me, I could go back years and find files that were shared with me, and I no longer need them. So you can delete those files if you choose to. And you can see this, of course, as a little side note when you're working in slides. If you have an animated GIF, you can add that in there and you can see it continually animates over and over again or moves. So sorting in your drive to make things a little bit easier as well. Some of these tips are maybe a little bit simpler, but this one, of course, you can sort things. You can do it in only specific sections of your drive and only under specific categories. So when I'm in my drive, like over here, I can actually click the little category headers here, and I can reverse the direction of those. I can come over here to last modified, and I can choose how I want to sort this as well. This is kind of a unique little addition to tips and tricks, and that is emojis. We all use emojis on phones, various places, even in emails. But did you know you can actually have emojis for file names and folder names? And you can see some images here of how I've done that. This can actually make it easier to find those files and folders. Of course, you can change the colors of a folder, but to have an emoji there really makes it stand out. And not only that, think about when, at least when I was a kid, especially in elementary school, if a teacher put a sticker on my paper, typically it was only if it was something that was good. So you can actually put in an emoji into a file name for a student's piece of work as well, or a student's paper. Now you can get these by downloading an extension to adding it to Chrome. This is one that I have on my Chrome browser, Emoji Keyboard. It's this right here, and I can actually come up here and I can click on one of these and I can copy that and I can paste it right into the file if I choose to. There are dozens of others if you would like to use those. It's up to you to find one that you do want to use. There's also a website which I really like, emojipedia.org, which it contains all kinds of emojis. It's a kind of a repository of emojis from all kinds of different operating systems. You can also go there and even find more. And you can see on my drive, I actually have a little emoji right there for my file name. Now, another little tip, and some teachers have figured this out. If you want to try to keep things organized, if you create folders and you number them or put a number or alphabetize them, they will appear in that order. So for instance, as you can see over here, 01, 02, 03. So I have those folders in the order that I want them, and that's the way they'll appear in my drive. So when I come over here, you can see 1111. These are all my example folders. And as soon as I get to the twos, it goes down here. And then it'll go in alphabetical order from there. This is a little tip that is really not well known, surprisingly, and it's built into Google Drive, but most people aren't aware of it. I frequently get asked the question, well, I want to have one file I want to have one master document, and I want to have that document in multiple folders, but I don't want to have to go in and fix that document every single time I need to make a change in all those folders. So what you can actually do is you can select the file and you can hold down Shift Z. And as you can see over here in this GIF, a menu option will pop up, and you can actually choose where and what other folders you want to put that folder into, and it will make copies of it, more like shortcuts. And if you make changes on one file, it will change all of those files. Now, one thing to be aware of, though, is that if you delete any of the original, it'll delete the copies as well, or those shortcuts. So that's a little careful consideration you have to think about. So Google File Stream, my district uses Google File Stream, or Google Drive File Stream, whatever you want to call it. It works very similar. It works very similar to Dropbox, in that it saves your documents in it creates a new folder, as you can see here, Google Drive File Stream. And it gives me access on a Windows or Mac machine to access my drive and team drives just as if it was another drive on my computer. In this case, it's going to be my G drive. So all I have to do is go to that G drive, open it up, and you can see what I see right here. Now, this is a very handy feature because sometimes, for instance, we'll have a business class that they need to work in Word, or they need to work in Photoshop, or whatever it happens to be, and they can actually save their documents in that Google Drive where we have unlimited space very easily just by going to that G drive. Now, another feature with that is you can actually right-click on that G drive and make things offline available. So it will save a copy of it to the hard drive of the computer, so that way you don't have to wait for everything to sync. So this is another little tip using Google Drive File Stream that I really like, and I use it a lot. And that is on a Windows machine or even on a Chromebook. I kind of have this set up for both of those. I actually created a folder in my Google Drive called Downloads. And what I do is I have in my Google Chrome, where I'm at right now, I actually have my download folder selected using, or that download folder in my Google Drive selected using Google Drive file stream. So anything I download on my home computer will go into that download folder in Google Drive. But then also when I go to my Chromebook, I actually had to go back into the settings there, and I made that change in my Chromebook. So anything I downloaded on the Chromebook will also go to that downloads folder in Google Drive. Now you might say, well, why is that useful? Well, if I'm working on something at school and I've had to download some images or some files, and I want to continue working on that when I'm at home on a different computer, I can still access those folders and those files very easily with no problems whatsoever. And again, if you make that offline available, that will also help to be able to access these things a lot quicker. Now, some Google apps, some specific Google apps, for instance, the first one is Google Keep. Now, this is a tool that I've been using for a while, especially personally. I do use it professionally as well, but it is a really nice tool to be able to use. And it's kind of like your own little note-taking tool. Think of it like an online post-it note where you can have all kinds of information, and you can actually share these post-it notes with others. So if I go to keep.google.com, you can see, and I have it set up in dark mode right now, but as you can see, I have all kinds of little things in here, these little almost like little post-it notes, as I said. And when I go to these, if I show them to you, you can see, Tyler documentation right here. I can come down here. I can actually put in website links. It gives me a little preview of what that is. There's just all kinds of stuff I can do with these. And it's very simple to do. If I click up under take a note, just type in something like that. I can give it a title, say Zoom. And I can add a color if I really want to, but that's not real important. I can actually set a reminder up, and you can see all those different options right here. So if I wanted to, I can say pick a place. So if I'm in a certain location, it will actually give me a reminder, a time, all that kind of stuff. Here's where I can add a collaborator. I can add an image. I can archive it. I can add a label. Now, labels are nice because, as you can see on the left side over here, I had a bunch of notes for digital citizenship a while back. So if I click on digital citizenship, it will show me every single one of my digital citizenship notes. It's taking a little bit to load. If I click on inspiration, it'll come up with inspirational things. If I click on notes, it'll come up with notes. So some of these are automatically created, but you can see I have a bunch of different labels. So another nice thing about Keep is you can actually download the Keep Chrome extension that will make it a little easier to work in the built-in integration with slides and docs. And there's also an additional little shortcut to Keep in Gmail as well. Now, the Explore tool in Google is a nice feature. It's kind of a newer version of what they used to have built into a lot of Google's apps. So the Explore tool, you can find it in Docs, you can find it in Slides, and you can find it in Sheets. The Explore tool is actually this little box down here. When I hover over top of it, it says Explore. If I click that, you can see it pops up over here. And all I have to do is just do a search on whatever topic I want to look up, and you'll be able to see your options over here. So you can actually find out all the information you need over on this side. And when I click it, it will actually open up what I want to find. I can find images, I can look at Drive, I can do all that just by looking at this. The version history is what I call the ultimate undo. So if I were actually wanting to look up the version history, I can click on File and Version History and see the version history, or you can also click on All Changes Saved in Drive, and that will open up a different window. And in just a second, and there we go, and you'll be able to see any changes that I've made and when I've made them. And I can expand that by clicking this little arrow off to the side over here, and it will actually show you the individual changes as they occurred. But it is great because if a student or students are working on a project and you don't want them to, one of them says, well, hey, I did this and I did that, and you suspect that that student has not done those things, you can actually go to the version history and see what they've done. Now, this example right here may not be the best because I've worked on everything, but if it were several students, those different little boxes right here, which show up in different colors, and you'll be able to see the students' names beside them. This is kind of a unique little tool. You can create your own dictionary. So, and you actually do it all the time, more than likely, as you're working in Google or Google Docs or any of the other apps. But what happens is, if there is a certain term or word that Google doesn't recognize, and you get really bothered by it constantly trying to correct you, you can actually go in and add your own personal dictionary very easily. So what you do is you go to Tools, Spelling, and then Personal Dictionary. And another window will appear. There we go. And I can actually type in whatever I want for a new term, and I can add it. So that way, if Google picks up while I'm typing that I misspelled a word and I actually want that word, it will no longer tell me that it's incorrect. And this will work in slides, docs, and sheets. Now, this is something that's very different, and that is interactive slides. We're making interactive slides in Google Slides, and it's kind of a workaround in order to be able to use slides in an interactive way. So what you do is you actually go to Master Slides, and that is under View, and you go to Master. And what you would be able to do is you create a background that, there's certain objects in that background that can't be moved, no matter how much you touch them or click on them. And then you would add in other objects over top of that. So what I mean by that is this. So I can't click on that, and I'm clicking right now. I'm trying to draw around it. I can't click on where it says dog, but I added this picture of a cat, and I can drag it around. So under the master slide, I made a blank slide right here, and I put the word cat, dog, bird, car, Google, Microsoft, Apple. So the idea is I can click on these other images then, and I can drag them around. So if you did this with students, you could actually use Google Classroom, or make a copy for each student, individual students, and then you could have a matching type of thing like this, or something similar, and you could have the students drag things around. They cannot click on any of these terms over here. No matter what I do, I can't select these because it's in the master slide. And then I got out of the master slide, I went, did a bunch of Google searches, found these images, and now I can go ahead and drag these where they need to be. It's a neat little trick that does work. So in Gmail, you can actually create tags or labels for your Gmail. And they can be color-coded if you really want them to. So what you do is you come over here to your email, and I could come down here, and I'm going to find this email that I sent myself as my example, and right here, sent this to myself as an example. I can come up here, and right here where it says labels, I can click that, and here's all my labels. Or I can create a brand new label, and I can give it a name. I can nest it under another topic if I want to, or this is kind of like the main category. I'm going to leave it as the main category. When I click on create, now you can see where it says example. And this over here, now expanded, there's my example one. If I hit those, and you can see when I click that, it only shows me that one. I can change the color of it to one of the predefined ones. And you can see it also changed that. And right there. So when I look at it in my inbox, if I scroll down, look, there, right there. There's my label now. The labels also kind of create folders. So if I wanted to, if I go back in here and I said I want to move it to my example folder, it will actually disappear from my inbox, but anytime I click on example, it will appear. Filters are a way to automatically do things in Gmail. So if I really wanted to, as an example, I could come over here to that same example email, click on the three little dots, and I could say filter messages like these. Now, I'm going to say it's from me. Any emails coming from my personal email address, I can have it do a certain thing. But let's say I get automated emails from IT, and those emails are just telling me sub passwords or whatever. And I don't want those cluttering up my inbox because I get them very frequently. So I can have subject because it's always the same subject, and I could type in that subject, get rid of the from. Now, anytime I get an email like that, it will follow these filter rules. But in this case, I'm just going to say anything from my personal email address. I'm going to say I'm going to create that filter, and I'm going to choose what I want it to do. So I want to say apply this label, and I already have that example one. So if I click on example right there, it will automatically apply that. And you can see some of these other options. So if I get a lot of, I get a lot of emails from businesses that are trying to sell me their services, and some of them I have no interest in, and they don't really apply. So if I really wanted to, I could say just delete it. I could say never send it to spam, and it's going to be deleted. I can come down here and have a certain category if you use categories in your email. I have all these different options. I can even have it forwarded if I really wanted to. Then what you can do is you can click this box, and it will automatically do whatever you have set up here to any existing emails in your inbox. And all you do is click on create filter. This is another handy feature in email or your Gmail. So if I come back to that email right here, and maybe this, instead of saying this example right here, the email was actually requesting a time to work with me. Maybe it's a teacher in my building. I can actually click the three little dots, click on create event. It will open up a new tab with my Google Calendar. And I can go ahead and change my dates, my times. I can put all this in here. I can come over here, and you'll see that it will automatically fill in one of my guests is, well, me. And if I don't want that, I can just get rid of it, and I can click on save, and it will automatically add it to my Google Calendar. Did you know that Google has its own digital whiteboard? It's called Jamboard. Now, this is going to have to be turned on by your district Google administrator, but if you wanted to use this, Jamboard is actually, or was, Google's attempt at making something like an interactive smartboard. And they still have them, but they're very expensive. But they have allowed use in the educational sector of just the software itself, and it does work very well. So Jamboard, if I come over here, it's just jamboard.google.com, and you can see I have two already started. I just click the plus sign over here, give it a second or two, and it comes up with the actual Jamboard. So it's just a white screen, and I can come over here and I can draw things, whatever I need to do. I can erase things. If I hold down over here, I can choose a different tool, different color. I have several options. I can use a laser pointer, and you can see how that kind of disappears. I can add in images if I really choose to. I have all kinds of options. I can do sticky notes that will appear up on the screen. So it's a really nice tool to be able to use if you need a digital whiteboard. And it does save, just like all other tools in Google, automatically. A couple other things. Safe searching. So when I'm searching something in Google, especially in images, for instance, this is something to be aware of. So I just did a search for remote learning. If I click on tools down here, you can see I have a couple different options. I would advise you looking under usage rights. When I'm searching from home, it automatically defaults to not filtered by license. I recommend using one of the bottom two options. Usually I go with this one, labeled for non-commercial reuse with modification. So what that means is I'm not going to sell it, but I might modify that image. This one, just not going to sell it. I like to use these. So if I click on this one, now it changes my options, and you can see what I get. Now there are other options at the top here. I can also choose a certain size. If I want to go with a certain color, I can do that. If I need a type, there's just all kinds of other things, but this is the main thing right here. You really don't want to get in trouble with copyright. Account security. This is something that honestly I need to check more often. And I think all people really should check this kind of thing. And that can be found if you just go to any Google page and you click your icon over in the upper right corner, manage your Google account. And you can check all kinds of different things. So security issues found, you can check that right now if you really wanted to. You can see how much storage you've used, manage your data and personalization. You can actually do a privacy checkup. There's all kinds of options here. But if I go under security, for instance, I can see I have two-step verification on. I give an access to these tools and these devices. Now, this is another feature that's kind of important. So if I go in here, I can see all the devices that have access to my account. And if there's one I don't recognize, I can always go into it and I can delete it. So if I click over here, I don't recognize this device, or I can say sign out, whatever it happens to be. There we go. Now that device will no longer have access to my account. So as an example of this, at one point I was presenting and I left that college and I totally forgot that I had signed in. I would actually be able to come in here and I could sign out of that device. Even though I'm not there, I could sign out of it here. And that way that device will no longer have access to my information. So I hope you have enjoyed this presentation on Google tips and tricks. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, my name is Chad Fisher, and I appreciate your time today. Thank you very much.